Happy New Year, everybody. It's 2020, and I hope you guys had a good decade and a good party and all that shit. And it's January, so we're going to talk about a horror movie, because as usual, the first movie released in a new year seems to be a horror film. I don't know why they do it, but that's what they do. This time, it's The Grudge. Once again, a house that is cursed by a vengeful ghost dooms those who enter it a violent death. And Andrea Riseborough plays Detective Muldoon, a police officer investigating that house, and the many horrific events that surround it. There have been many Grudge films, of course the original Japanese ones, the first being pretty unsettling, and the American remakes, Sarah Michelle Gellar in the 2004 one being the most famous. And while the Grudge franchise definitely has reliably creepy atmosphere and a villain that is also very disturbing, the American films were never as creepy as the originals, even though the first remake was actually directed by the man who made the original. And so I've always wondered why this series continues. Even in Japan, it's gone on and on and on with various remakes, even a Versus movie. This film is trying so hard to be really dramatic. And it's telling a story over many different time periods, connecting events to this one location where various families are involved. This is nothing new, but the real issue is that the film seems to think the events it's uncovering, the things that it's keeping as a mystery, are these incredible sequences that are just going to blow your mind. But it's not. Like, a kid will have a nosebleed, and you don't know why the kid has a nosebleed. And then later you find out, oh, that's why the kid had a nosebleed. In fact, I'll go as far as to say this movie is horrendously boring. There is nothing worse than a boring horror movie. You have a very simple job when you are a Grudge film. You're just supposed to scare us fairly often and tell a compelling story. This movie really doesn't do those things. And if you're expecting to see your antagonist that you're used to seeing in these films, they do something here that feels more like a zombie movie, and I kind of loathed it. Much to my dismay, this film thinks its characters are a lot more interesting than they are. It thinks its direction is a lot more interesting than it is, and it sure thinks it's a lot scarier than it is too. And it's definitely not, because it's mostly filled with cheap jump scares from beginning to end. And you're going to experience a lot of those, and you're going to see every single one of them coming. In fact, I started to predict everything that was going to happen in the movie in my head. Now, if you've been watching my videos for a long time, you know I hate doing that. I really try to turn that part of my brain off when I watch a movie and just roll with the punches the filmmaker is showing to me. I don't like trying to guess where the director is going. But in this case, I could see just about every turn before it happened. This is coming from the same filmmaker who made The Eyes of My Mother, which is actually pretty good. And that was definitely a low-budget feature. And you could see that that was somebody really yearning to make films. And I can understand how a studio might pluck someone like that from obscurity and say, here's a franchise. Unfortunately, there are aspects of this movie that are also trying to be the things that I think this indie filmmaker likes, like the way the end credits appear, for instance, which produced a lot of audible groans in my theater tonight. There's moments that feel very indie and strange like that, but at the same time, this is a big horror movie, part of a well-known franchise, and it feels like the filmmaker is at conflict with himself throughout the entire film because he's restrained, in a way, to have to deliver consistent jump scares over and over again, and there doesn't feel like there's any real passion behind them. In fact, there are aspects of the movie that almost feels like they used CG shadows, like in a window, to create some tension that maybe they weren't even thinking they were going to create while shooting it, but they watched the movie and realized there aren't enough scares, so we should probably have a shadow. Every character in the movie is either pregnant or dealing with a death in the family or a terrible case that went wrong. Everyone has a past they're hiding from, and nobody wants to talk about it. The film is filled with characters that are afraid to discuss things that are important to them. And because of that, the movie is drawn out to these arcs for all of them that you can see coming a mile away, and especially an ending that you can see coming a mile away. There's no surprises in this movie. The only thing about this film I can recommend is Shaye, who is an insanely underrated actress. I love her, and whenever she's on screen, she's bringing something. Andrea Riseborough ain't bad in the movie, and neither is Demián Bichir. It's just that there's not much for them to do. Shaye by far has the best and most fun out of any of them. and you can really feel that coming out of her. But beyond that, this is a extremely boring movie. And if you're a fan of the Grudge franchise, which honestly I'm really not, because like I like the original one, and that's about it. If you're a fan, I can see you being really disappointed by this movie. I'm gonna give The Grudge a D. This is definitely the first week of January. I would suggest seeing Just Mercy or Uncut Gems, or really just about anything else except Cats. Ugh. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.